Today we're going to be talking about procurement. My name is Kurt Trinka, and I'm a former journalist turned Fastenaler. I'll be your host today, but first, let's do some housekeeping. There's a little bit of a tour that you need to know. The Q&A feature is up here somewhere. If you have a question for our presenters, that's the place to enter it. Also, chat's open, so if you want to see me try to pay attention while you're hitting chats, go ahead and just start peppering them in there, and I'll be like, yep, I see it, I see it. Okay, let's dive into modernizing procurement. Imagine that you ask your friend to pull out their phone and order something for you. They can have it ordered for you in under a minute. Then you PayPal them some money and everyone moves on with their life. If any old person can do that, why can't a business? It's time to modernize procurement. Here are the fine folks who are going to help us with this topic today. Tyler, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Tyler Dieterman, Director of E-commerce here at Fastenal. Been with the organization for just over 21 years and in our e-commerce department now for 13.
And Danielle?
Hi, I'm Danielle Dalton. I work for Solvay Chemicals. It's a global chemical company, and I work in their Ariba onboarding specialist group. So I work strictly with onboarding suppliers onto Ariba, and I've been part of the procure to pay team there for over 20 years now.
And Christy?
Hi, my name is Christy White. I am what's called a strategic trading partner executive, which is just a fancy way of saying account manager. But I work for SAP with the Ariba platform, and I help support our supplier managers. So in this case, Fastenal, and I work with customers like Danielle as well, onboarding customers onto the SAP Business Network.
Okay, thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time. But let's dive into it here. Danielle, can you set the stage for us a little bit? What was Solvay seeing in its procurement operations that led to making a change in the first place?
So like many of your companies out there, we were faced with the challenges of trying to harmonize processes, increase automation, and really control all of our spend across any category that we're working, much like all of you. So in order to, tackle that, we really looked into partnering with our suppliers like Fastenal and with partners like Christy with SAP Ariba Business Network. And we really have made some big strides forward in meeting those goals of automation and harmonizing processes.
Okay, it sounds like process automation was always going to be a big step in the right direction. And I feel like that's, if you've got more to add in, let me know. But I feel like that's a good place to transition into Ariba's role in modernizing procurement. Christy, does that sound like enough of a kickoff for how Ariba helps with process automation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
What I actually love about this is the entire purpose of a platform like Ariba is process automation. That's why it was created, to connect a buyer and supplier and have their entire procurement process on one platform. So it took, instead of the manual, I don't know how long you've been working, but you used to get faxes and phone call orders, and it was very archaic, and it was riddled with a lot of errors. And systems like SAP Ariba that it allowed for now an electronic connection between buyers and suppliers. So the entire procurement process, from quote to purchase order to order notifications, ship notifications to invoices, are not only electronically transmitted, it's all in one place. So you no longer have to go all over to different platforms to find that information. So it is really the main purpose of a platform like Ariba, but that's not the only thing that you can do from an automation standpoint on the Ariba platform, which is where we keep on trying to grow and move forward. So for instance, our sourcing capabilities are really great, where they help to optimize the negotiation processes for your RFPs. We have risk management. We have learned to automate reporting and analytics. So really, the entire breadth of our platform really feeds into what Danielle was just talking about.
Okay. So I'm going to hop again, I think. Then.
Yeah.
Tyler, can you share some strategies that Fastenal uses to drive vendor consolidation, and how does that affect procurement efficiency in general?
Yeah. Yeah, I think vendor consolidation is a big topic. Process automation is fantastic, and everything that Christy and Danielle outlined is, truly valuable. And, when you look to really get the most out of, a procure to pay or an e-procurement solution like this, I think vendor consolidation plays a big part. And so when we think of vendor consolidation, there's really two approaches. The first is true vendor consolidation, where you're looking to buy from a fewer number of total suppliers. The other side of it is vendor merging. And I'm actually going to park on that for a second here, because it's something that's really important to Fastenal. When I think of vendor merging, it's in line with Fastenal having 2,000 plus in-market locations, those in-market locations doing all of the order processing, order fulfillment. And so when we have a customer, a partner of ours that has multiple locations across the globe or across the country, they end up working with multiple Fastenal locations for their order fulfillment. And in doing so, oftentimes they can end up setting up multiple vendor records. Some of it is bad habits, lack of visibility, different things like that, right? But
Sure.
At the end of the day, a lot of times the real reason is so that they can control the communication of documents like purchase orders, right? And so when we have things in place like electronic order transmission through EDI, CXML, or other standard formats, it can really be a game changer in terms of being able to merge those disparate vendor records into one, because you know that when you send the order to your vendor, it's going to be understood and routed to the correct location, which you can't easily do through email in many situations, right? So again, that's the vendor merging process. You're gonna see a lot of better reporting, more efficiency, cost savings that's driving. And Fastenal, we're truly experts in it because of how we're strategically positioned close to our customers. Coming back to the true vendor consolidation and how customers or companies can really look to address rogue spend, non-contract spend, and ultimately buy from a fewer number of vendors. I think Christy's probably the best to really talk about that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Ariba, one of the biggest focus that and the benefits of the platform is to help alleviate the rogue spend. So, purchasing outside of your network, outside of compliance, whatever it might be. And we tackle that multiple ways. One is obviously the centralized platform. Having one area to go to find your purchases really helps. But then to go towards what Tyler was saying about procurement policies and enforcing it to one vendor. The Ariba platform does help do that by setting up automatic compliance checks that we can set up based upon what the buyer has requested. We also have predefined approval processes. So this will help alleviate your user from going to this vendor instead of this vendor. And it will help, even if they try to enter an order, you can put in layers and checks to stop that from happening. We also work directly with the suppliers in and of themselves. A lot of times we put the onus on the buyer to make sure those checks are in place. Well, we also want to work with the suppliers to make sure that what they are offering to their customers is approved, that they're not putting one laptop versus another laptop and offering that to their users. So we try to work with them to make sure that they are only putting in the negotiated contract products and pricing onto the network. We also do things along the lines of real-time visibility, where the procurement managers are able to go in and see, oh, this user has unfortunately tried to go and purchase through a P card somewhere else, and they're able to see that right away and make corrections. So there's a lot of different areas that we can come in and help with any kind of rogue spend outside of the network. So a lot of great things.
I hear P card and I think rogue spend. Maybe I shouldn't.
I know.
It's just like, are they the same? I don't know. Actually, you guys have unintentionally done a service to me, I feel, where you've brought up both faxing and email. Like,
All right.
this is not how we should be doing things, people.
No.
No,
Don't
as
let the
technology
ops
moves
manager hear
forward,
that.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Danielle, actually, I have a question for you now here. So you've been working with both of us here, Fastenal and Ariba. Have we delivered? What's it been like working with us on the challenges that you faced?
So absolutely. Absolutely have delivered. Speaking a little bit
Good to
to what
hear.
Christy has said, um, we spend a lot of time building our corporate policies and our structures on how we want to control our spend and how we want to move forward and what's really needed for a true end-to-end successful process in procurement. And 99.9% of that can be addressed within the Ariba platform. We do still have to have our own internal compliance teams to verify that, all of those double checks are in place. But every time we go into a new project with Ariba, with a new supplier in a fully integrated process, we have a structure of this is what Solvay, we as a company need from our suppliers in to have a compliant order process. And we also take into consideration what our vendors need to be able to have a compliant process on their side, right? Because they can't just be accepting willy-nilly all the fun things that
Right.
potentially could come down the road. We've all
Mhm.
had those requests. So, Ariba does a really excellent job of putting structure to our needs and making sure that when we do submit an order and we're fully integrated with a supplier, the end-to-end process gets significantly smoother. And on the flip side of that, working with Fastenal, they were amazingly adaptive at being able to say, okay, you guys need this, you need this, you need this, done. We can make that happen. We might have to tweak a little bit on this end. We can no longer accept phone calls to the branches, for example, which is completely 100% within our expectations. So we did have to set some structure on what could and could not be accepted. But they 100% met every need that we have, and they're actually still continuing to do that. As we move forward, we're always looking at the new developments that Fastenal has to offer, the new ways that they can help us automate our process. And we are one of those companies, as Tyler mentioned, that works across numerous branches across this country. And in that, we've discovered that it's really working with our branches on how to use processes like vending machine restocks and the e-PO process to automate that refill. It takes a lot of time off of our sites. It takes a lot of time out of our operations. And we actually have been able to save a significant amount of both time and money by moving towards a more automated process like those.
If I had told you beforehand, hey, I'm going to pay you $1 every time you say automated, I'm glad I didn't because you said it a bunch, and I thank you. Uh,
No, automation's a huge impetus for us. As we
it
move
has to
forward,
be.
it really does as technology moves, and you can't continue to live in the way we used to do business. Companies just
Yeah.
can't grow and move forward. So, yeah, automated might be kind of my hype word at the moment, but it really is something that that allows us as a company to make great strides forward.
I think it actually goes back to the idea, we've hit on this a couple of times now. We have multiple locations. You have multiple locations. Lots of people working at scale have multiple locations. You can't be doing things in 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010 models because it's not going to handle what you're trying to get done at the speed you're trying to get it done today. So goodbye email, goodbye faxes. Don't write anything down. You need to be automating. That's just the takeaway. I am not an expert. Tyler, if I stole anything that you were planning on saying, I'm very sorry. But I'm going to turn to you right now. I have a question for you that I think you've been just dying for. Tell me about e-quotes and e-POs.
Yeah, practically, jumping through the screen here on this, Kurt. Danielle quickly touched on vending machines and that being a fulfillment model that Fastenal has with Solvay. We are the industrial vending leader, throughout North America and across the globe in terms of that technology. And so we have two functions that become available within our punch-out sites, which is a big function within these e-procurement suites like SAP Ariba, where you can have a vendor's catalog right within, right at your fingertips to be able to order from. And so when Fastenal has again vending machines or our bin stocks, RFIDs, or different managed inventory solutions in place, we make it extremely easy and automated, Danielle, right? To be able to process replenishment orders, right? So Fastenal is going to manage the mins and maxes. They're going to manage the really the supply chain of the products that you have in those managed inventory locations. And in doing that, as we replenish those locations, machines, whatever you want to call them, we're able to push through what we call an e-PO request directly to our punch-out site. That means that a user may be able to access, and just through a few quick mouse clicks, be able to create a full purchase requisition or PO for a 100 line item vending machine replenishment. So it's a tremendous time saver, cost saver, just for those specific services or managed inventory programs that we have.
Okay, so I wrote something down there that I wanted to come back to. You mentioned that we're the technology leader in a certain area. I like to think of it as inventory management technology. Is that an oversimplification, or is that a fair way of phrasing that? Because we've got 120,000 devices across the globe, and there's not really, we're supposed to stay humble and not be braggadocious or anything, but there's not really a close second. So what does that mean? How powerful can that be for a company like Solvay?
Yeah, you're spot on, Kurt. And I think, as we look at those programs and being able to custom tailor and design them to our customers like Solvay, to our partners, right? We have that. And in the spirit of obviously this conversation, we have tremendous tools and solutions to help automate all aspects of the procure to pay cycle when it comes to, again, those managed inventory programs and that technology. And, Kurt, I mean, it might be a little shameless here, but, I think you did a tremendous webinar just like this, last quarter, just late last year, on our different solutions and technology that we have.
It's the only reason I knew what to talk about.
That's funny.
Chrissy, I have a question for you here.
Okay.
You tend to, I don't know about tend to, that's probably the too strong phrasing, but I think your situation makes you have to be in the middle sometimes. Does that throw curveballs? And if it does, how can people eliminate them for both your sake and their own sake?
As far as connecting with the buyers and the suppliers?
Exactly.
I will tell you from an Ariba standpoint, our job is not to stop business. And Tyler's probably heard this from me many times. There may be the same issues might still be there between a buyer and supplier, and our job is not to make it worse. We want to ease the connections as much as possible. We want to streamline it as much as possible. So we try not to get into any intermediate issues that there might be. Our job is to make sure your connections work, that you're able from PO to invoice have full connections, whether it is from a PO to invoice to your risk management or negotiations. Again, our job is to facilitate it and to make it easy, not to make it more difficult. So does that always work? Of course not. We're all human. Things happen.
Yeah, right.
but no, our job is not to deter business. Our job is to increase business as much as possible. Okay.
That makes sense. I think I asked my question poorly and you answered well despite that. Thank you.
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna stick with you for a second here.
Sure.
So we're talking about how we can't do things like it's the 80s or the 2000s or whatever. We can't look backwards. We got to be moving forward.
Absolutely.
With that in mind, what does the future of procurement look like? I mean, we've got evolving AI, we've got advancements in technology. What is coming next? Do you mind taking a little stab at that?
Absolutely. Well, you actually mentioned part of it, and Danielle said her word is automation. Our word is AI.
Oh.
Yeah, AI is obviously the way forward. If a company is not investing and working towards it, they're going to be behind, and we're no different. Our AI is called Joule, Joule, and if you haven't seen it yet, it is all over not just the Ariba network, but through all of the SAP suite of business that we have, and we use it in multiple ways, not only from a here, let us help you write your descriptions more effectively so they're higher in a search But we also use it to enhance decision making, to help provide, like I mentioned, the predictive languages, predictive insights. We are using it to help procurement teams on their forecasting, for instance, to make sure that what they believe they should be ordering is actually where the demand is coming from. We can use it for supplier performances, for instance. We have it for purchasing strategies. So basically, anything that you can think of, we are using AI. And not. I think what's really interesting is we're using it as a machine learning as well. And I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Failed invoices are a big issue. A lot of times you submit invoices, they fail, and you can't figure it out. And sometimes if you do thousands and thousands and thousands of invoices on a network, it's hard to really comprehensively understand why it's happening. And with some of our machine learning AI, they're able to go in and take that data and condense it down and make it consumable for the buyer and supplier to see what is happening, why the orders are failing, which I think is tremendous. It's just one of the ways that will help advance and help change how you are working on the network. But another advancement that we are really working towards, and this is technology, but also growth. I had mentioned, that ethos, or the beginning of SAP Ariba, was connecting buyers and suppliers. Now, that usually means they are connected outside of the network, but now they are just connected inside of the network to transact their business. What we are working towards is also connecting new buyers and new suppliers on the network, being able to go and find new business, whether it's incremental upsells or it could be brand new contracts. This is a demand not only from our customers, but we're seeing that this is where where everybody else is moving towards. They are investing into these platforms and they want to use it to grow. So we are actually rolling out a new platform tomorrow it's called Promote. So it's exactly what it sounds. It's there to help you promote your business. And I always think of it as a dating game. It's a way for you to elevate yourself and get your information out there from a supplier, and for the buyer to come and find new business. So that's another way that we are using the networks and our platforms to go out and help our customers grow their business. It's really exciting. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow.
Tomorrow. That just happened. That's the timing.
Yeah, I know. I was
That
like,
worked
this is
out.
tremendous.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, right?
Perfect.
We got some breaking news on our webinar here. Here we
Yes.
go. Okay. There's something that I wanted to touch on there, and Tyler, you might have to reel me back in because I'm going to take a stab at it, but then you're going to say if I nailed it or not. Christy, you mentioned basically the idea that when you have that much data sitting in an area, it takes something or someone time to go through it. And that's the power that we're, I think, all hoping that AI can give us is, okay, I've collected all of my supply chain transactions. I've collected all of these orders. I've collected whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We want you, AI, to go through it, because a human being going line by line or even like category by category, we might miss something. Our brains aren't going to be like, oh boy, I'm excited about this all day. So hopefully AI is going to unlock that for us. Tyler, did I say it correctly? Did I miss anything?
On the head there, Kurt.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Whew. Okay. Danielle, I actually want to turn to you for one here. Everybody talks about metrics in so many different ways, but what metrics do you use to measure the success of your procurement modernization? Is that a thing that you guys are looking at?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
We currently don't measure it fully across the board, but our
Sure.
current metrics that we use are automation of our accounts payable process. So how many invoices do we come in that will just post automatically, because there's no differences between how the purchase order was issued and how the invoice comes in. That's a huge indicator of success for us, because obviously the higher the automation of the invoice posting, the more success we have across the Ariba platform. The other one we're we spend a lot of time focusing on is how many of our suppliers are actually submitting their invoices on the platform. That comes in as a significant metric to determine
sense.
success of our integrations and our process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, those are probably our two biggest right now. We had a lot of success with those over 2024. So moving into 2025, I fully anticipate those metrics to shift a little bit, but I'm not quite sure yet what direction that will be the next piece to focus on.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time left here, everybody, and you've just been blowing up the chat. I can't focus at all. Make sure that you have some questions in the Q&A section if you want anybody to posit an answer on them. But if you don't, we'll just keep going here. Tyler, another one for you. Technologies, tools, what does Fastenal use to integrate automation into the procurement process itself?
Yeah. And, Kurt, I think we at Fastenal, we've done a good job in terms of transforming our procurement processes as well. We're utilizing very similar technology to what Danielle and Solvay is using, and really, again, transforming and driving process automation and efficiency throughout our own procure to pay cycle, right? If you're an organization that sells something, you're also an organization that buys something. So this is a very relevant conversation, right? I think, again, there's a lot of solutions on the market, and I think the spirit of today, the goal of today is really just to, kind of step back, especially in somebody who's kind of in a buyer or a chief procurement officer type role, and say, hey, what can we do? What are we missing out on in terms of savings? So, again, we've done that at Fastenal. We're continuing to transform and drive savings for ourselves through that process as well.
Okay. I think we only have the chat and the Q&A are still quiet. Y'all are just being too nice to me. I think we only have the submitted ahead of time stuff. If anybody, Henry or Sarah, if there is other stuff that comes in, let me know. But otherwise, I have a couple of questions that were submitted from social media, and I think one via email here. I don't know who this is going to go to, so if anybody wants to, we'll play grab bag questions here. What are the key factors to consider when choosing a procurement automation solution? Anybody want that one?
For me, you really have to look at the end-to-end process. There are a lot of solutions out there that focus strictly on purchase orders or on invoicing or on the processing of RFPs, but there aren't many processes, contract management. There's a lot of parts to the procure to pay process, but for me, in order to really have a solution, it needs to be one that truly does address the end to end.
Okay.
It's well said. Yeah.
Anybody else on that one, or? Okay. I got another one here that says, how can small-sized enterprises benefit from modernizing their procurement processes? Don't all go at once.
Christy, do you want to take a
Yeah, I was going to say, from when we generally think of Ariba, and I specifically work with larger customers, but anytime you can save money, whether it's hard or soft dollars, people or errors or whatever it might be, by automating any of those processes, hopefully through a system like Ariba, is good for the customer long term. Again, change management is very difficult. Sometimes small, medium businesses are using what's easy and cheap instead of looking to larger investments. And this can be an investment, obviously, to move towards a procurement platform or a supply chain. But from my experience, and I didn't mention this initially in my introductions, I was on the other side of Ariba for most of my procurement time frame. So I've worked from the purchasing and the supply side of a customer, and using platforms to automate and to modernize their platforms and how they do business is huge. And I think where we get a lot of stopping points with the small medium businesses. They're used to broken or easy processes. And it's hard to go in towards that investment. But all I can say is it really does make a difference. And you very quickly recoup any kind of costs involved when you move to that type of system.
So this next one is,
Mhm.
unless there's anything else, anybody? Okay. This next one is talking a little bit more about, I think, a broader sense. I don't know who's going to be best to answer this one, but what specific challenges come up when implementing process automation?
I can talk again about that. But process automation, most of the challenges, I guess there's two different ways you can look at this. You can look at technical, the specs of it, because again, we are taking multiple platforms, a customer's platform with another supply chain platform, and trying to get that electronic handshake to work. So that can be a challenge using a company like us, SAP Ariba. Again, you guys tooted your horn about being number one. We are probably the largest supply chain procurement platform in the world. And because of that, we have a wealth of knowledge and have done so many integrations that we have very much standardized how to do those connections. So there is some, I can understand hesitancy to make those kind of connections, but we try to make it as easy as possible to do that by, again, standardizing how the process works. The other thing would be what I call change management or people. It doesn't matter whether it's doing a new platform like SAP or Ariba, it could be anything. And really it's the change management, working through the antiquated processes that people are just used to doing. And sometimes it's hard to move forward into changing how business is done. And it can be a little scary at first too. But again, relying upon our wealth of knowledge and how we've done that, we have an extensive amount of training available, in person, on site, 24/7 customer support. So we try to help ease any of that through.
I think
Yeah, I was
so
gonna
many
say, I
people,
think-
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think adoption and that change management aspect, that Christy's talking about is probably the biggest challenge with really getting this off the ground. I think, it's easy to work through it and look at that end-to-end process that Danielle talked about and say, wow, this is a really game-changing, platform and process for us, right? But if you don't get people to use it, you don't really tap into any of that benefit, right? Yep. So making sure that you've got a really good game plan for not only training, Christy mentioned that, some of the resources that can be available, but making sure that you're running training sessions and getting people excited and, on board with making this change in procurement, I think can be really a good thing to do.
Hugely helpful. The only thing I would add to that is I was going with change management and data. Data is critical to all the things that we work on, and working with an automation procurement process will do two things. It will make you realize just how far you need to go for a clean data platform, and it will force you to clean it up. And so, those are absolutely advantages to every company out there, but it can certainly lead to its own set of frustrations when you're in that middle ground.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, we've gone through all of the pre-show questions, and the Q&A section was quiet this time. Thank you guys for going easy on me. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to touch on? Otherwise, I think we're pretty much there.
No, I just wanted to thank everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was going to say. Just thank you. This is great to be here.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation to participate and speak with you guys today. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, Danielle, Christy, you both are fantastic, and we really appreciate you guys helping us with this webinar. And hopefully people took a lot from it. There's a lot to gain out there through driving e-procurement and automating your procure to pay cycle. So, Kurt, thanks for playing MC.
I couldn't say anything better than that. We'll see everybody. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.